Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the moments where I don't even want to waste time. But I think I should say I'm here with Unpaid Bill, the great. How you doing, Bill?
Fantastic. This is quite a day.
You don't look like you're in your home studio right now. Where are you?
No, I'm in I don't know what the fuck to call it, a hallway between.
Steve, how are you?
Good
You're
morning.
home?
Yeah, I'm home. I am on the East Coast. I don't have kids, so I just woke up.
There you go. Let's hear it for the childless cat dudes. All right. So one of the coolest things that I enjoy about my charmed life, being the passenger seat of the first 20 years of recorded hip hop, is also being witness to a lot of pioneering firsts, people that got to pioneer things. Um, and some 30 years ago, on his fourth album, the late Keith Aleem, aka Guru, instructed us on his Hard to Earn album that it's mostly the voice. Our guest today is absolutely no exception. I will go on record in saying that our guest today um, probably possesses one of the greatest voices, intonations, diction, punch. He's in my top 10 favorite voices in all of hip hop. And, and kind of the domino effect shows it. When hip hop really came into sort of an existence on wax, at least, I feel like most MCs were kind of derivative of what we call the Wonder Mike voice. Early Chuck D was also that. Melly Mel, of course, ushered in the loud MC. So they're, your LLs, your runs, most will credit Melly Mel as being the first authoritative rah, screaming MC. Of course, we can't forget Slick Rick's voice and his storytelling intonation and who he's inspired Snoop on down the line. Our guest today is one of my favorite textures in hip hop. I don't know, I have a thing for sort of animated, nasal, whiny, high end, above tenor, below soprano voices. Not to mention the amount of history that our guest possesses today and these pioneering albums. As we speak, we're 2 years late of the 37th anniversary of his debut album, License to Ill. This is also the 35th anniversary of his mind-blowing sophomore album, Paul's Boutique.
Dude, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of decades.
Come on, dog. You listen to the show. You know each intro is 17 minutes. Yo, ladies and gentlemen,
30,
welcome
40,
Adam
50,
Horowitz.
All right. Again.
Welcome Adam Horowitz, aka King of Rock, formerly still of the Beastie Boys, to Questlove Supreme. Are you tired of, like, when you get to be where you are right now, and when people introduce you, are you like, how does it, when people talk of you, I know they speak in terms of like lifetime achievement awards introductions. They just don't say, and our guest today is Adam Horowitz of the Beastie Boys. Like, how does this feel? Did you imagine one day this would happen?
No. Short answer, no. No, there was no plan, no thought, no nothing past, what's the weekend.
I will say for our audience, first of all, one of my favorite all-time audiobooks is the Beastie Boys memoir. Can't recommend enough if our audience isn't familiar with that book and how it's crafted, the way, it's almost like a hip-hop version of Prairie Home Companion. So I'm actually going to spare this particular show of the kind of soup to nuts questions that I would normally ask on the show. That's been covered in other interviews and also been thoroughly covered in the book. But there's a lot of in between the cracks that I'm curious about. So where are you speaking to us now from? Where you
I'm
you
in
located?
the mountains. I have a cabin, a studio
Smart.
in California.
Without giving you away, is this the everyone's recommending to me wherever Stevie Wonder took that photo in Talking Book. It
Oh,
begins with the letter E. It's like the mountains of. It's like an hour north of L.A.
don't know, but it's that kind of
Ah,
thing.
I'm about to say Erewhon, but that's the supermarket.
I'm up in the
That-
mountains here. There's bears and bobcats and stuff.
so, well, I was going to ask: is the mountains more serene for you? Is that like why that location?
Just it's not at my house. It's a different place. It's my own space.
Okay, so you don't like to shit where you eat as far as creativity is concerned. You want to go to a place to be creative and not.
I'll eat wherever and I'll shit wherever. That's not, I'm fine shitting and eating.
Okay,
Yeah.
got
It
it.
was COVID. Like we were just all together so much that I wanted to get my own little space.
Smart,
I was lucky enough to get my own little space, little cabin,
smart. There you go. Sometimes you need your own real man cave. I get you. I get you. Um,
or nap zone, whatever you want to call it.
what was your first musical memory?
Yeah, driving in the VW van with my dad and my brother and sister.
Mhm.
And my dad would just blast music, 8 tracks, always, and sing along really loud. And
Were you allowed to curate the selections, or was
oh,
it like
oh
"Don't touch
no.
my stereo"?
No, no, no. He would drive, be driving really fast and be reaching for the 8 tracks and trying to push, the one, two, three, four thing. And yeah, that's when I really got into music as a little kid, especially from the radio.
Okay.
But I also knew I was like, what is it? What's the deal with Neil Young? Like my dad would scream sing Neil Young songs, and it's a tough thing to listen to as like a 5-year-old.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that I too lived in a "don't touch my stereo" household. So a lot of the music that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. My dad was like pre yacht rock, pre AM radio pop. Like he liked vocals like Johnny Mathis, Barbara Streisand, Nat King Cole, anyone that flexed harmony as well. We had Pet Sounds in the house, but I'd never touch it. Right.
Mhm.
When I read a review that wasn't the Rolling Stone lead review, Paul's Boutique, and someone said, "This is the Pet Sounds of hip hop." Someone said, "Oh, this is Sergeant Pepper." She's like, "I disagree. This is the Pet Sounds of hip hop. This is more pioneering." And I was like, "Wait, Dad has that record." So actually, like Paul's Boutique opened my mind to what something I would otherwise resist before the age of 18. I'm now
Right.
open to. So I'll ask you, like, because if you're listening to all of the music that you guys and all your references, and if you're familiar with the rapid fire way that you guys craft records, I would have thought that coming out the womb that you guys were just like music savants that, grew up with the pedigree at the age of 1 of all this music. So am I to believe that at least for the first 10 years of your life is more like forced learning or Stockholm syndrome? Like,
No, 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 no. So that's an ingrained memory. You asked like my first memory. That's an ingrained. It's not a pleasant one, but it's a memory.
I got it.
But I have an older brother and sister, and this is, early 70s when 45s, 45s. And I was
Right.
and the AM radio, it was a certain time in the radio where it wasn't like this type of music was played on this station, this type was played on this station. The music being made in the early 70s was a little taste of all of this different stuff.
Right.
And the radio kind of reflected that for a minute. And so we had we had a sort of, lesson from the radio for a very brief time. And also growing up in New York City, just walking down the street, you hear so much different music that you're being taught every day.
I would say probably in my mind, you're one of the figures I think of whenever someone's talking about the folklore of what New York City used to be or what New York City was. And most people, look, I'm no stranger. Like technically, politics aside, technically now is the best time of my life. However, my most romantic memories of the music in my life was happening in the worst times of my life. So I almost feel like the music was the saving grace of an otherwise dangerous, uh, somewhat landmine filled childhood. If you had a button to control time or mood, would you like the sort of sanitized New York right now, or hands down there was nothing like New York for you back in whatever 81, 82, 83, or whatever? Like, in your mind, what is the best version of New York City that we'll never get back?
You can't ask a 58-year-old that question. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't go to clubs. I don't go to parties and shit. Do you know what I'm saying? Like when I was, in my teens and 20s, I was out all the time having fun, doing this, that, and the other, running around, rooftop parties, this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? And now I love my life, but it's a different life. So if you put me at a rooftop party with a bunch of 20-year-olds right now, it's not for me right now. So you know what I mean? Like
Smart answer.
in my 20s, yes, I'm at the rooftop party. I got a 40. I'm having the best time. Right now, 50, I have 58. I have a Knicks game on. I got a chicken parmesan, and I'm good. So those are my two happy places.
Wise words.
40 or chicken parm, one or the other. Done and done.
I think for me though, the one thing that I miss more than anything is just, I mean, there was a period in which, like, whatever the equivalent of the best orgasm you ever had, like, music did that to me almost not daily, but weekly. Like, it was a guarantee that 4 to 5 songs were going to be played that just made you like, holy shit, what the fuck is this? Sometimes it's replaced with, someone does something really cool on Instagram and I'm like, oh, that's dope. But, for me, I think I'm more or less asking, because music is so central to your life. And I know you're a serious record collector. Do you miss the time of which you were discovering music as opposed to where you are now, which is like a know-it-all expert of music?
Again, ask if any grown up is really. It's a different time of life. Do you know what I mean? Do I listen to my old records? Not that much. I have them, and I used to listen to them. I don't really listen to them that much. Am I jaded in terms of music and all types of arts? Like you see a band or a performer, and you're like, yeah, I know what that is. I don't really like it, and you don't really give that person a chance because you've heard it 1,000 times, or so you think. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah.
And so as you get older, the sad thing is that you end up cutting yourself off to that type of experience. That's just what happens.
So are you still open?
No, I don't give a shit. I don't care. I could care less.
It's open to chicken parms.
Yeah.
You know what I
fucking-
mean? Like I could get the Idris Muhammad record right now, and I'm telling you, it'd be just as good, if not better. I could get a Meters record; it would be just as good, if not better than whatever. And that just is
You know what?
that's
You're right.
maybe that's me, but maybe that's 58-year-olds.
What I do now, I'll pick like maybe there's always 3 to 5 kids, or maybe 3 to 5 parents that will put me hip to their kids and their kids like curiosity of record collecting. And I'll usually around this time I'll do my Santa Quest shtick, and I'll just so that I can have an excuse to go record shopping and go digging. Like I gotta do that. So I'm not doing it for me, but I'll record shop for a bunch of 8 to 10-year-olds now. And come Christmas Day, they're gonna have like an amazing record collection to start on. So I was shopping yesterday, and and I shop at my main spot is A1 Records in the Village, and there's always someone on the turntables just playing like something cool or whatever. And this guy's playing side two of the Ohio Players' Mr. Mean album,
Hmm.
an album that I otherwise would have passed up, owned. I know I got 5 or 6 copies of it in my collection, but I realized in going through all the alphabet and him letting it play that, yo, I've been listening to records from the hip hop standpoint, where, in the very beginning, in such a rush for that, dopamine of where's the break or where's those 4 bars I need, listening to it on 45 or just perusing through it and that sort of thing. And I realized that I stopped listening to records just as records without a purpose of this is going to inspire me to write
Yeah.
a song, or
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to DJ this next week. And so now I realize I got to go through my entire collection again just to go back to my childhood before hip hop existed. Like when you listen to records now, I'm certain in post 89, you were listening to records for what's going to help build the machine of my art. But for now, how do you absorb records? Like, are you still in that place where?
Um, there's a few things that I want to say that happened real quick because there's a lot we just discussed.
Yes.
Going back to, I play softball with my friends, right? And it's a bunch of
Hmm.
old people, and we all bring our kids, and some of the kids play. And my friend's kid Nacho, he's 9, and we have walk-up
Hmm.
music. Everybody, you have to pick a walk-up song before you play softball.
Oh,
And
a real
the kid
softball.
played
Okay.
Travis Scott Fiend or whatever. And me and my friend, and it's blasting. And I was like, this is what parents must have thought when people were listening to Slayer. Do you know what I mean? It
Hmm.
was like just this thing that was like, this is not for me. And it's
Right.
not for me. And I think that's okay. For me, at least. I've accepted that, it's not for me. It's not made for me. I can
Right.
like it or not like it, whatever. I'm kind of irrelevant from that group of people that are listening to modern music. That makes
Right.
sense?
Hmm.
Also, listening to when you hear Ohio Players, you're like Funky Worm, Players Ball, and all of their songs. So you're like, Mr. Mean was like a later record. It's okay. It's not. I wouldn't put that on. And so the time that you have in a day to pick a record out from all the records you have, you're not going to pick Mr. Mean. Makes sense. But at the same time, in our early years,
Hmm.
we listened to songs, we listened to music. That's what we did. And then when we started record shopping in terms of sampling and all of that, we didn't
Hmm.
really listen to music. Do you know what I mean? It was like mathematical, it was a hobby, it was a thing, and it was all of that needle dropping and trying to find the thing. And cool. And then you made something from that, which is great. But now I don't do that anymore. And so I just actually listen to my records.
And do you
Which,
let it go all the way through?
yeah.
I mean, we now live in a time in which the remote control, shuffle culture, you just skip to the part you like. Again, the dopamine rush of it. So
Well,
it's even hard for me.
there's also the thing of if you listen to something on a whatever platform,
Right.
Spotify, one of those things, then it plays the song that you want to listen to, and then it starts playing you all this algorithm shit, and then all the next thing you know, you're listening to fucking Tom Petty or some shit. You're like, this is not what I started out with. I don't want this.
Got it.
Just saying.
So you're primarily a wax person.
No, no.
Are you, like, what's your weapon of choice as far as how you consume music?
Um, but
Yes.
the downside of it is that you only listen to things you already know. So I'm not listening, trying to find new music. Very occasionally, but not so much.
Okay.
All of the music, it's sort of stopped at a certain year or time. So I'm listening to, you know, I, dub records are my favorite, right? So
Mhm.
I'll put on Prince Jazzbo, right? And then, an hour 45 minutes have gone by and I've listened to that record, and then I'll listen to Lee Perry record, and then so I'm not listening for the newer record. But the drawback is that you're stuck in the past. You only know
Got it.
things you know.
I specifically want to hone in on your creativity in the world of hip hop. I would think that some of my peers that are hip hop experts know that you have aided in creating the very first 12-inch for Def Jam, which is you programmed the 808 in Tila Rock's It's Yours, correct?
No, no,
The world thinks that you helped do that.
no. Rick Rubin did that. I was at the recording and am in the party track in the background.
So you're the do you like it? Yeah, yeah. You're
Yeah,
the crowd.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So what take us from
The story is LL's first single. I made the beat for.
so you made a beat for I Need a Beat?
I made the beat that he needed.
No, that's even more pioneering because I don't even think LL's told me that story. Oh shit. Okay. I thought it was It's Yours. My bad. So can you what was the day that you guys collectively said that okay, we need to sort of morph or pivot more to hip hop? Like what was what was the seed that was planted that was like, okay, we can either travel this punk way or we can try another route. Like what how did that happen?
I don't know how it exactly happened, but we were a hardcore band playing, hardcore shows, punk shows. The scene was changing, right? The hardcore scene. It was getting into like a real tough guy thing. And we were feeling we didn't want to be part of it. We were kind of edging out of that scene. But we were also listening to rap, a lot of rap music at the time. And
Wait, can I stop you one
yeah,
second? So you're saying that at one point the punk scene was a more pure
for us, we were, it was kids. It was like we had our little group of friends, and we were teenagers, boys and girls, and it wasn't a thing. And then the hardcore shows started. Would see like the guy from the football team at school would be at the hardcore show, and you'd be like,
so you're
they were just
you're
making fun
saying
of
that
us.
you had a bridge and tunnel kind of
That sort of thing started happening.
issue.
Right.
Okay.
So we wanted to do something different, and our music started. The music, we stopped kind of playing so much hardcore. We started experimenting with different music, and then I don't know. We had a show. Oh, so jumping a little bit after, we wanted to try it, but we had met this guy, Rick Rubin, and because we were going to do a show, we wanted a bubble machine for the show. And my friend Nick Cooper was like, "Oh, I know this guy, Rick Rubin, has access to a bubble machine." And so we went to
Okay.
meet him to get the bubble machine, and we saw he had turntables and he was a DJ. And we're like, "Oh shit, we got this show. Do you want to try to rap?"
Right.
So we just kind of did that. And he brought his turntables, and it was fun. And we did like 20 minutes of hardcore songs and then like 15 minutes of rap.
Was the audience thrown off?
I mean, there was like maybe 30 people there. Maybe.
It the less people, the more hard it is. Like it's more intimate. So
Mhm.
Yes, being booed by thousands is easy.
it kind of is. I was booed by thousands before, but it's way harder than like the fear of me comes if I'm playing under if it's under 200 people. Like if it's Blue Note size or Village Vanguard size, I'm scared out of my mind. But any other place I can just channel them out. So well obviously, I mean it went good enough for you guys to say like let's do it again. But what's the point in which it's like, okay, this is what we're going to do for real?
Um, I don't know. So long ago, we were then we were playing shows and we were doing that. And then Rick had his record label, He wanted to try to make that like he wanted to put out rap records because he had already had Def Jam. He had like a noise art band called Hose, and he put out his own record under Def Jam. And he
Got it.
wanted to, partner with somebody and make rap records. And so he met we were all at this club Danceteria, and he had a meeting with this guy Russell Simmons, who was Run DMC's he was Run's brother and Run DMC's manager, and we were
Mhm.
excited.
Was Rick Rubin's persona always what we know it is to be now, or did it evolve over time, or was he always sort of the Rick Rubin who is the Rick Rubin we know now?
I don't know him now, so I wouldn't know. He was really into wrestling, so he was very loud and like that kind of like over the top wrestling guy.
Yeah, I don't
So
think he was
no.
Zen back then.
Got it. All
He's
right,
been
there
on
we go.
our show, so he's very Zen.
Yeah, it's
That's
a very
not
different
Very.
that's
character.
not at all what he was like when I knew him.
Actually, you know what's weird? So I was at a movie screening last week. This gentleman introduced himself to me, and he told me that he was the owner of 99 Records.
Oh yeah.
Um, so he's the one that signed ESG and Liquid. And he hands me a flyer. Beastie Groove. One, were you there at all when the Latin Rascals were doing edits for you?
Oh yeah.
All right, can you just explain that whole entire process? Because
All right. So somehow we ended up at Shakedown Studios, which is Arthur Baker's studio, and Arthur Baker made Planet Rock. He made a couple of really big records
right.
and remixed
Mhm.
in the 80s. And he had these guys, the Latin Rascals, who would do his edits. And the edit,
They're under his tutelage?
they worked at Shakedown Studios, and oh yeah.
Oh God, dog. We gotta get Arthur on the show, man.
And I know this
Fuck.
because Adam Yauch worked at Shakedown Studios at that time. He was a gopher. He would go get the sodas or whatever sandwiches for the Latin Rascals.
Ah.
And these guys, they were in like a closet-sized little side studio at Shakedown with just, two reel-to-reels. And they were taking, just the razor blade and the tape, and they would just cut this little fraction, a word, and cut it, and then, splice it, tape it in, and then re-record it, and then tape another one, then splice that and tape it on to the next one. And it'd be like, blah, 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 blah. They would literally do that with tape. It was crazy.
That's
So you're saying to
crazy.
me that on BC Grooves or Parties Getting Rough, when you guys are like, all that stuff is hand chopped.
It's
So they would have to make like 10 copies of a song.
forever, for hours and hours and hours. And if you splice the tape wrong, well, oh well, I don't know what you're gonna do. So they were so precise and so talented at what they did. Nobody could fuck with them. They were so good, the Latin Rascals. I mean, it's a
Do you-
thing that you can't even understand now. What the thing of slicing tape was. The idea of Sly Stone taking a 2-inch tape, his song, and just slicing it is crazy. You would never do that.
yeah, we so just having finished his doc and getting privy to his master reels and all that stuff, I was rather shocked at how air quote hip hop Sly really was, especially with Loose Booty, which I now realize a lot of post riot stuff was just him sampling himself, and like to hear the original jam sessions those things came from.
Send those to me whenever you feel like it. I would like to have those.
I got you'll be shocked. Probably the biggest revelation that there's so much in the movie that we had to take a lot out, and a lot that we had to take out was just the nerdy stuff. There's a moment during Fresh. There's at least 4 songs in which the only way I can describe it is it's almost like he had Fela's Army Assault. Like there's this version of Babies Making Babies in which it's like 4 drummers at least 5 guitar parts. It's like it's almost like his version of the Wall of Sound, of Spector's Wall of Sound, where it's just so there's a Babies Making Babies, there's a bloated version of Skin I'm In. Like at one point, Fresh was going to be just like just a sonic assault of, like, at least with Spector's Wall of Sound thing, it was like compressed inside of a compressed
So he wanted
bubble.
to have like 4 drummers playing at the same time.
Yes, dude. I
And
I I'll
and
I'll let you
Cynthia's
deep in.
like, okay,
Dude,
I'm gonna
it
skip
was
this
her,
section.
Pat Rizzo, like
All right.
it,
Seems
beyond
seems like
48
overkill,
tracks.
but go ahead. That's
No, it was overkill. I mean, what we wound up with was the better record, stripped down, but the initial Fresh sessions, like 4 of those songs were just like just an army,
What's the
a
Isley
funk army.
Brothers? The Isley Brothers beat where there's 2 drummers playing.
Oh, get into it.
So good.
Yeah, yeah,
2
yeah. Get
drummers.
into it.
Okay, just 2. 4,
Getting into it.
maybe not.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
Now
Oh,
this
you know
one's
the
4.
Niagara beat?
I'm familiar with it.
That's 2 drummers. That's a good one.
They're on
That's a
top of each other.
that's a
Okay.
really good one.
Wow. Okay. So
Oh, also, do you know Dante Carfagna?
no, hit me.
I was on we were on tour in '98. We had the day off. I wanted to find a record store or record stores.
Okay.
I think this whole thing is in the book, is in Beastie Boys book.
Okay.
But we had the day off and I went through the yellow pages and I found like all the used record stores and I took a cab to the first one. And I go in the record store and there's some records playing, whatever, and I'm flipping through. It's a huge record store. And all of a sudden I hear something that I'd never heard before, some break beat and some crazy shit. And there's
Right.
nobody in the store and it's like 10 in the morning. And I'm trying to look and I see this guy in the back at the turntable behind the counter and he's like pointing at me, looking at me and laughing. And I go right over to him. We start talking, blah, blah, blah. He's like, my name's Dante. Um, he's like, I work here, but I'm the one who buys the records when people sell the records. So I sift through them before anybody else says. And
Mhm.
he's like, I'm gonna go on break in an hour. Let's hang out. And I went to his house and he just played me these records that I've never heard before or since. He is a record collector. He's put out tons of compilations. Um, I can't even begin. Dante Carfagna. I'm surprised you don't know him.
Hey man, I'm not the know-it-all. I'm
I
the
just I
student.
just wanted
I
to give
learn.
him his little shout out because he's amazing. When it
Okay.
comes to records and having the good stuff, there you go.
Were
And
you always
he
that
played
person?
me Niagara. He's like, you ever heard this? I was like, no, never heard this.
Wow.
That I still get excited about. Hearing a break that I've never heard before.
And do you still go on those missions?
I've got like 2,500 records I've never listened to in crates that just say listen to. How many
Right.
records?
So yeah, I mean that's kind of where I am now. Where I don't necessarily go digging as much as I used to. Now it's the first generation of record collectors dying. So I'll get a lot of calls from daughters that are like, "Hey, dad had a 7,000 records. Do you want them?" Or sadly enough, a lot of colleges are ending their jazz programs,
Right.
radio stations shutting down. So a lot, like I know the like, oh, 200,000 records. That's a lot of records, Quest. But I don't want people thinking like I'm going to a record store. First of all, I don't think there's 200,000 individual good albums. I mean, I have at least 300 Billie Jean 45s. So, like, kind of the new thing now is whoever would service jukeboxes at diners and bars and whatnot, they would have a warehouse or that sort of space where all of their 45s and stuff that they were serviced to mom and pop stores, those people are dying, and either the mom has passed and the kids are just like, we don't know what to do with it. We heard you like music. it's 1,400 45s at 14,000 45s if you want them. So right now I'm kind of hoarding I'm kind of hoarding you know record collections, but
All right, two things.
yeah.
Do you miss the good old days when people sold their records for drugs? I mean, come on. You know, and
You,
two, 300 copies of a Billie Jean 45? What, why? What are you doing?
It's an
well,
obsession.
no,
What are
I
you
buy
doing?
collections. Again, like there was
No,
a
I
guy
know,
in
but
Atlanta.
300 is like, what?
Well,
Why?
I realized after the fact, like
And my
it'll
third thing is, which
yes,
leads into a fourth thing. You live in New York, storage, like you're bleeding money, just bleeding money. Why are you going to A1? It's like the most expensive record store. What are you doing?
because I need something to do, yo.
You're always complaining about how busy you are. You need something to do now? That feels like bullshit.
I need no, it's my really like for me, the joy of I almost feel like listening to the record is almost like the last part. Like for me, the excitement of all right, I'm gonna take 3 hours out and go record shopping. Right now, I'm excited for so there's a kid from Detroit. His name is Ace. He's well known on the socials. Um, he's like 3 years old. He's probably the closest thing to what I would say I was like as a child. 3 years old, but his parents like play games with him. Like, who's this person? It's Larry Graham. Who's this? That's Lionel Richie. Like he knows Ronald LaPrede's name. Like I was the person that knew the arranger and the producer and the keyboard, and that's who he is. So right now, I I get the joy of going to a record store and buying a shitload of records, and I'll take this, that, this, that. And I could easily go in my storage and do that, but you're right. So right now, I brought in the pandemic a
You're right.
farm, and I will on this acreage build something that will house and store this. But right now, yeah, I got like somewhere between 8 to 11 storage units, and it's killing me inside. Like
But
it's killing
in
me.
your defense,
Um,
Quest, though, Billie Jean is a very important record.
I was given a hypothetical example, but yeah, the 45s I buy are from people that were servicing jukeboxes. Like back in the day, you buy like 78 jukeboxes, go to each restaurant. Hey, you want a jukebox? And then you strike a deal and you service. This particular guy in Atlanta had over 90 bars and diners that his record jukeboxes, you know, uh, were utilized. So
That's the trick for when you get older and you're a record collector is to switch over to 45s, 7 inches. They're smaller, lighter, and just as fun.
well, I consider that part of
I much prefer a 45 to an LP.
I'm not. So right now there's a I would say the first generation of Renaissance hip hop producers, your Large Professors, your Diamond D's, your Lord Finesses. Um, they're in their anti-Serato phase and like 45s only. I mean, it's a cool flex. Like I've never been one of those, like, I don't own a Macintosh. I'm not like, yes, I acknowledge that the sound of vinyl is more superior, but I've never been a vinyl head that like worships at the altar of the most purest form of how
Nobody,
you
well, the thing about it is nobody else cares.
exactly.
Nobody
Exactly.
else.
So it's only a flex for the Questloves of
There's three people in the room out of, whatever, 250 that care about that you're playing a 45. Yeah, I wanted to go back to this though. You asked
yeah,
about
go ahead.
memories, and I'm bummed because I wanted to get here earlier to go through my 45s. I have a stack of 45s that were mine when I was a kid. And because me and my brother had the room, I used to every 45 that I bought, I put a number on and my initials when I was like 7 years old. So I have like 1 to 50 of my first 50/45s.
So you never got rid of them.
No, no. But I have not gone back, and I wanted to do it for this to look to see which was the first one
What
I
was
ever
yeah?
bought.
What was 1 to 5?
I know the
Yeah.
first album I ever bought, but I don't know the first 45, and I wish I could remember because it literally has a number on it.
What's the first album you ever purchased?
Well, the first album I ever got, I was with my dad in the VW van. He had to stop. He stopped and we were getting sandwiches. And he ran into like this thrift store real quick and was like, I'll be right back. And he came back out with the Rolling Stones out of our head album. Like, here, you should have this. And I didn't have a record player or anything. I was like, okay. And then when I got a record player and was listening to records, the first record I bought album with my own money was the Rocky Horror Picture Show soundtrack.
That's a stretch. I like.
There you go.
All right, that's a unique first. That's a
The
unique
time warp.
first.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Just because you like the show, or just because it was there?
It was just a phenomenon in New York at the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I hadn't seen it yet because I was too young. But it was right in my neighborhood where they'd line up on the street to see it, and it was like a big deal.
Another thing I want to know is at the time when you guys were first recording, was there an immediate plan to make a full album? Was it like, why did it take 3 years for you guys to finally get Licensed to Ill out of there?
I don't know. I don't know. I like like you'd asked if I would have seen this coming, like where I'm at now, or all of the stuff that's happened. Like I was a teenager. I was still in school. I was going to high school, and we made a couple singles. I didn't know that we were gonna keep doing this. I didn't know that we were gonna stop doing it, but I didn't know like uh, anybody who had an album, the Bad Brains, but like I didn't, it wasn't we just made some singles. I didn't know that it was a bigger thing was gonna happen.
Got it.
And I was cool with it. We were playing shows. I had a little money. I'd never had that before. So I was like, I could buy tapes. That was cool.
So what I always wanted to know was, I know the legend of the story is that that Freddie DeMann wanted Run DMC to open up for Madonna, but the amount of money that they were willing to pay for an opening act was way below Run DMC's market price. And then I guess they asked Russell if he knew the Fat Boys or could get them, and instead he pivoted them to you guys. But what I always wanted to know was, okay, so in 1985,
Yeah.
with just one 12-inch, I mean, if you count the Bazooty MCA thing, and there she's on it. So maybe with just 2.5 singles,
And Cookie
exactly.
Puss, and Cookie Puss and Polywatch. We had a few little records out.
Okay, I was going to ask, what was the show like if you had no album behind it? Like, how long was the slot? Were you doing like a half hour, 45 minutes? 10?
Yeah. That's all we had.
10 minutes?
I mean, it couldn't have been more than 10. I don't know what we would have done for longer than 10 minutes.
All of the hits.
I don't know.
I would imagine for a lot of that audience, that was their first hip hop experience.
Yeah, sure. And it goes back to the Rick Rubin wrestler thing. And so when we were like getting ready to go on the tour, we were like, what are we going to do? We've never really done a show at like a amphitheater or anything like that. So we were trying to figure out what to do and whatever. And so Rick was very involved with that.
Okay.
He was like, you have to do like wrestler stuff where you have to like fuck with the audience and just be an asshole. And, you're gonna,
So he wanted you to be a provocateur.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like you walk into the Paramount Theater and be like, I'm the king of the Paramount. Anybody, they could burn this place down after we leave, all of that stuff. Which, what's the Eddie Harris record? One of my favorite albums of all time, where he's talking in between the songs. Oh, that's why I'm talking shit. Eddie Harris.
Okay.
Fucking great.
And that was your modus operandi
No, I
for.
hadn't heard that record yet, but it's that type of thing where it's just
I
like,
got it.
just fuck it. And they did not want that at all. It was little kids and their parents to see Madonna. It was just becoming this major thing.
Was her camp worried at all? Like, oh, we might have chosen the wrong act, or
They wanted to kick us off the tour after like the second show. Freddie did. Yeah.
I see. But you
And
did the entire show.
Madonna was like, no, keep them. They're great. Madonna's the
Got
best.
it.
I love Madonna. She's fantastic.
Okay, so you guys were sort of our first experience, and I was wondering that as well. Like, okay, we had basically been living in Europe for the longest, and us coming back to the States to start the second half of the Ill Communication tour. And, at this point, I wasn't fully aware if, the audience would be with it or not with it. And you had us going on in between Teenage Riot and
Really?
John Spencer's. Oh, dog. Atari Teenage Riot and John Spencer's Blues Explosions. Then the Roots.
Sandwiched.
That's
Then the Beastie
that's a
Boys.
good show. You get your money's worth at that show.
No, dude, dog. Everything I've ever learned in my professional life, I learned in those 6 weeks touring with you guys. Literally everything from a rider to hotels to I can shop for records. Like anything that I've ever learned that I still do to this day, I learned on that tour.
You didn't read KRS's book?
What'd you say?
You never read KRS's book?
I absolutely. You want to know something hilarious?
Tell me.
So we were in, I don't know what city we were in California. We were at a truck stop and we saw that KRS-One book.
At a truck
And we purchased it, but kind of as a joke, like, wow, KRS-One's giving an instructional on how to be an MC. So I will admit that we would mockingly read that book on the tour bus in KRS-One's voice. When you arrive to the venue,
Oh my God. You're not
like,
the only
we
one
would-
that did that. I think most people that have that book did that.
You have to.
we would joke about everything he said, and then kind of like on stage do what he said.
Yeah.
And then like, holy shit, that actually worked. So we went from, like, he did this thing called when you come on stage, he said always come layered, where
Oh
a
yeah.
t-shirt,
Oh,
a
yeah.
shirt, a vest,
Absolutely.
a jacket,
Oh yeah.
and a coat. And time out when, like, every 4 minutes, take off a jacket.
yeah.
That tells the audience, like, I'm rolling my
You getting
sleeves
heated?
up. I'm ready to work. And so
There's so many gems in that book. I can't.
I did everything, but I always thought it was a jinx if you give an eating establishment an 8x10, an autograph 8x10.
Always your tour manager should always have 3 periodicals on him at all time. Newspapers, magazines, should have a pair of slacks, a pair of black jeans, and some other specific thing about pants. It had 8x10s for when you go to a restaurant. Specifically when you go to Burger King and you need to cut the line, tell them that you have a pregnant woman on tour with you. And you need to get food immediately. It's so deep. But he also
It's
tells
called
me
the
bottles of
gospel of
water to
hip-hop.
have on stage, what speakers, like everything. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're probably the best thing that we still do to this day is dynamics. He's like, sometimes start the song at a whisper.
Yeah.
And then you get loud. Like,
Yeah.
we went from playfully mocking it to
living by it.
like wearing it by like a tattoo. Yes. But no, everything I learned touring was with you guys. And so, but I always wanted to know, like, what was the repertoire at a time when you didn't have music out?
whatever songs we had. We had Rock Hard, the
Rock
AC/DC.
Hard, Party's Getting Loud, Beastie Groove.
We did She's on It probably, right?
Hmm.
Yauk did a verse of Spoonie G, Freaking and Spanking, and I did like a verse of Jimmy Spicer.
Hip hop covers. Okay.
Yeah.
Early to the game. Got it.
And then I might have did the Electric Boogie for like 30 seconds. I don't know. Some sort of breaking and popping and locking. Something really embarrassing.
Were they even like, I'm certain then, especially hip hop shows, the usual call and response, somebody say ho thing was a staple. Was
Not
the
at the
audience at
time.
all responsive, or were they just 10,000%? No, we don't want this.
No. Tear, crying, like literally crying. Hatred, just hated us.
Not knowing they worship at the altar 3 to 4 years later.
None of them did.
Nah, every person I've met, many people. Oh, what's her name? I think she told me that. Portlandia.
Carrie Brownstein.
Yeah, Carrie. So like everyone tells me like, oh, I first saw them open for Madonna, and then later I became a fan. That's what I'm saying. Like,
They were like, if your parents promised you a big wheel for Christmas all year, every other day,
all right.
am I getting the big wheel? You're getting the big wheel. And then you'd get like a piece of shit.
At the time, did you
Thrown
mind it?
at
Did you
you.
feel like, oh, we're fucked, or like, what are you
Oh,
thinking in terms?
that was our thought process is so long as they remember us, so long as they know who we are. If we just went up there and did a couple songs, we'd be unmemorable and they'd forget who we are. So
So
they
at no point, no one's saying, hey, this is one of the biggest artists of all time. You might want to sort of
that was her
amalgamate
manager.
her ecosystem to
Her
get those.
manager was definitely like, you got to go. We're gonna get somebody else because you guys are terrible. And I don't know this is fact, but I'm sure she knew like they hated us so much that by the time she got on stage, it was like
Thank God.
it was like, a dozen big wheels.
I see it now. I see it. I see it. So strategic planning. I get that. So when does the official process of making License to Ill start?
Oh man, is this 40 years ago? You're asking like I don't know the day. I'm not like you. I don't know the exact day. It was
I would
so
assume
around
sometime in
then.
85. Holding Out hit is early 86, so I would assume.
Yeah. So
All
around
right.
then, after the Madonna tour, I guess we came home and started recording. We found, Rick, I guess, found a studio, Chunk King studio. And we would just go.
We found out that LL named that studio.
He said he did, then I guess he did.
He said it was called, when he was making radio, it was John King Studios, but because he
John King
loved,
owned the place.
what'd you say?
Like someone named John King owned the place, and
Right.
Bernuti was the engineer.
Okay.
Jay Burnett,
LL told us
Jay
that
Burnett, who was also the engineer for Planet Rock.
also worked at Chung King.
He was the engineer.
He
Who also found an apartment for Adam and Mike in Chinatown, which is a whole other situation.
the rat apartment.
Yes.
I live about 3 blocks away from. I can see it from here. I don't know the exact apartment, but my eyes are on it. No, LL says that there was a Chinese spot with food so good that he liked. That he's like, yo, man, you should name this Chung King Studios. And history made. That's the folklore of LL, saying that he named it, went from John King to Chung King.
Okay.
So okay, so I guess I mentioned to you before, whose idea was it to put the acapella version of Hold It Now, Hit It on the 12-inch?
I think that was Rick. I don't believe it wasn't me.
Okay.
So, it could have been Yaux. It could have been anyone other than myself because I don't think it was mine. So
Okay.
it could have been Russell's. I don't know. Rick was part of the like the DJ
But
pool
but
thing back then.
but it never occurred to anyone, hey, why don't we put the actual instrumental on the B side so we could perform the shit in concert? Because people were still like rhyming over their vocals.
You know, the details weren't as important to me at the time. It was more like trying to get free drinks, like going to clubs, meeting people was kind of more my headspace at the
Right.
time, you know, getting phone numbers, that kind of thing. Really was more where my focus was.
Okay. I think I told you previously that the initial pressings of that 12-inch actually had the acapella on the A side and the drum version on the B side, of
Okay.
which when Lady B started playing it,
Mhm.
the first time I ever heard the drum machine version of Hold It Now Hit It was when I got Licensed to Ill.
Oh, really?
But for a year and a half before, Power 99 only played the acapella version. And in my mind, it was the most Mensa genius shit ever. I was like, yo, they're so dope. They don't need no music.
Yeah.
Like,
We don't need no music. All I need is yeah,
yeah. So when I got the album version, I was like disappointed.
it
Like,
sucks.
wait, where's these drum machines coming from? Like, what the fuck? But also, I mean, at the time though, like, what was it like to get finally like latched on in terms of like getting respect from, because the single caught on in New York and elsewhere, correct?
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of stories about all of this, but the Lady B thing, I'm just gonna say, yeah, I can't remember what's in the book or not because it's a lot of pages in that book. Um, but Lady B, I love Lady B. She she booked a show for us at that time.
After midnight,
This is not going to make her look great at any rate, but
at the after midnight.
no, this was at a hotel. This was at like like the brunch center of a hotel, like the meeting area.
Okay.
And it was on a whatever night, and we drove down to Philly to play. It's like somewhere near Philly, but not in Philly and not Jersey. I don't know where it was. And
Right.
no, but only Lady B showed up. And maybe
One
a
person.
friend or
That's it.
that's it. And the couple of people that work there. And so we just did it. It was basically like we did a show, but it was, a practice. And that was when DJ Jazzy J was our DJ. Jazzy J was our DJ for a minute.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Nice. Okay. I didn't know that. Any other tidbits from this area from this era that I should know, at least in the pre-License to Ill?
Oh, you mean that we played with the Rappin' Duke? No, we do.
You did a show with the Rappin' Duke.
Yeah.
Is he Cali based or?
It was somewhere, and it was one of those shows where it was like, 10 different rap groups, and we would just do, 2 songs. And I'm
Getting
obviously I don't remember who else was on the bill because Rappin' Duke was, the main event. We did
at the time,
we go somewhere in Jersey, maybe, and a limo picked us up to go to the show, and then it stopped to pick up Just Ice, and we drove in a limo out to Jersey, and we were blasting like Led Zeppelin, and he hated us, and he got a ride with someone else back home. It's a lot of stuff like that.
no, I live for stories like that.
Played with Shy D down in wherever the hell that was.
Florida or Atlanta?
Atlanta. Yeah, down in Atlanta.
So wait, now I mean kind of the elephant in the room based on just assuming I thought groups of average white bands Tina Marie's caliber was a once in a 20-year, once in a 50-year occurrence. I just assumed that you guys rapped that you had to have been Puerto Rican.
Puerto Rican. Okay.
That's all right. So the story is that you guys made a stop in Philly during your tour.
Mhm.
And I had the cassette of License to Ill. So there was no like inside sleeve or anything. And there's no pictures of you guys.
Mhm.
And shout out to Don Robinson. This is in ninth grade. Um, we meet you guys. You guys are staying at a hotel on like 16th and Locust in downtown Philly. So like school's letting out. Obviously, like our let out time might have been your lobby call to get to the Spectrum. And as we're walking home from school, it was you and Yauk. We didn't see Mike. We shook your hands quick. Don was like, "Yo, I didn't know they were white." I was like, "Nah, they're not white. They're Puerto Rican." He's like, "Nah, I think they're white." And there was a listening booth like a block away, and we had like the one smart guy that works at the record store,
I don't.
and you would have been that guy.
Kidding, I'm kidding.
It's you.
But we go there, and his name is Mark, and we're like, "Mark, hand us the License to Ill album," and it's the inside gatefold. And Don's like, "Look on the inside. Look at them. They're clearly white." I was like, "I don't know, man. I think they're Puerto Rican." And he's like, "Dude," and he pulls out the thing. He's like, "Horovitz. That's a Jewish name." And the whole time I was just like, "Yo, I didn't know they were white." I mean, at the time, were you guys aware that you were in, even though, yes, I know that there were pioneering hip hop artists of all ilk and all cultures and backgrounds in the game of hip hop, but as far as being marketed to us, we thought that hip hop was a black guy's game, a brown guy's game sometimes. But I mean, at the time, were you guys aware of it? Do you think that Russell was aware of it in terms of like you not being on the album cover, those things?
Um, Again, I didn't, I wasn't thinking, certainly wasn't thinking about marketing. And I was a dumb teenager, so I wasn't really sort of wise to the ways of the world and how, white people have been doing this for a very long time. And so I wasn't aware of like Russell being like clearly in his mind, he's like, this is what's gonna catapult all of my other artists. Do you know what I mean? This is unfortunately the game that has to be played to get the white people out there, so then I can get Run DMC and Houdini and all my other groups out there. So I don't know that Russell ever saw us artistically as the thing that's, going to propel him, you know?
Right. I get it.
So
As
as I
far
grew
as you
up, I
know,
clearly understood that.
okay, I got it. Um,
But we came from a background of um, all types of music and all types of people growing up in, Greenwich Village in New York. There's kind of everything for you. There's everybody and everything. Um,
well, I'm
and the
amazed.
interesting, thing that I was going to say is very inspired by the Clash. And the Clash
Right,
kind of did what we did, right?
right.
And we did it because they did it. And so they took reggae and they played reggae music.
Well, the thing that I was just amazed at, and I don't think a lot of people noted, is that you guys could have easily played the caricature card, but you didn't. You know,
You
you
sure we did? But
you could have. I mean, you
we
could have
hard for a
played.
while. What do you mean?
Like for me, you guys never came out trying to sound black or trying to sound, you know what I mean? Like you sounded like your voice is clearly your voice. I just my 13-year-old self would not think instantly that white people can rap as good as black people do. But I will say that, you guys could have easily cashed in on because there were groups after you, the White Boys, like people kind of cashing in on the novelty of being an outcast in hip hop, but y'all never played that card at all. Like you were naturally yourselves and you just made dope music that, was pioneering to death. So y'all could have did that, but y'all didn't. And I think that's kind of why like the respect was always there. You know what I mean? I just didn't know. But
we just really love the music, so we weren't trying to make fun of the music in any way.
I clearly knew that. Yeah. I
We didn't
clearly
think
knew
it,
that.
we never thought that rap was a novelty. Do you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, oh, it's funny, let's do that. We love it, let's try to see if we can do it.
Right.
And when we first started doing it, I just wanted to sound like Jimmy Spicer. And so I was doing that thing where I wanted to sound like a specific somebody, and that changed very quickly because I don't sound like that.
But was your voice something developed over time, or was that the first? Like, how did you get to the voice that is the iconic voice that you rap with? Was it something you worked on, or was it just what came out
I think it
initially?
just what came out. Yeah, because at first I tried to sound like a baritone
Right,
Jimmy
because your
Spicer.
speaking voice is lower, clearly.
Yeah. I just something happens when I start yelling.
Just goes up an octave or two. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say that you nailing air quote the voice, you nailing that's some rare shit. Cause like again, it took Chuck D an album to really get into Chuck D space. Like there's very few people. You nailed it. Q-Tip nailed it. Um
All right, so I was trying to start a band in the 90s called the Nasal Tongues. With me and Q-Tip and MC Milk and Be Real.
Be Real.
Yeah. And it was one of
What
those things
happened?
like, yeah, we'll do it. We should do it. And then it never happened.
No one ever finds their voice until like the second album or the third album, but like your voice was fully developed by that first album. Like how did you, I guess what Bill asked, like I would think that so I have a theory, especially when it comes to hip hop music and soul music, which is I feel like most of the time acts are not living in the studio to really know what their sound is. It's like we got an hour, let's get in, let's get out, one take, we're done. Whereas you can tell who had time to, like Prince obviously had all the time in the world to figure out what his sound is and all that stuff, which is why he's so developed. I'm certain Michael Jackson's budget, same thing, allows that. But there's a lot of groups who had to be in, had to be out. So in general, like, were you guys like living in the studio, or were you always like demoing stuff? Or because even when it comes to like the chemistry of the delivery, like the whole tug of war wordplay between you three, like how are you guys developing that?
Well, there's a few things. One, the thing that can't just comes to mind now about our voices is that the three of us, it's kind of like siblings and you have to fight for your space. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And so we're trying to each try to fit in and be louder than the other one or try to make ourselves fit in and stand out, if that makes sense. That could be bullshit. I don't know, but
No, that's what I think. I think you found a high register that obviously Yout can't do.
um,
And
what we used to do is we would go to Mike's apartment and we would just write rhymes over an instrumental of whatever. We would just listen to whatever it was over and over, whether it was our song, a demo of a beat that we had, or a beat that I made, or some other record that we just listened over and over again. And we would write rhymes and write them and then sift through them and pick what we liked. And then we would put three copies all together and underline who was going to say what. So we knew, and we would practice at Mike's apartment.
aha. Okay. That
And
all
I
right.
mean, we also just tried to copy Run DMC and Fearless Four and all the greats, you know.
Well, I've heard a demo of I think I heard a demo of looking down the barrel of a gun in which all three of you are saying the same things. So I always wondered, like, was it a thing of also punching in? Like, would you all just say the same verse in the way that you would say it and
No,
then
there was only
decide?
not that I remember that might have happened, but the only time I remember was there's a specific song of Paul's Boutique where Yauka's like, we got to do it all three at the same time. And me and Mike were like, that's a terrible idea.
Well, I definitely heard looking down the barrel of a gun that way, where
Okay.
all three of you are
It
saying
could
the
have
same
been.
things.
It could have been.
Oh, no, 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 no. Ah, overworking, underpaid, staring at the floor.
Yeah,
Oh, stop that train.
that's the song. It's got all three of us. It's on the
Stop.
record.
Yes. Stop that train.
Yeah.
All right.
I thought it was a terrible idea. And it doesn't matter. It's fine. It's like 1 minute on the whole album.
Got it. But you also did a version which so when you guys are doing your vocals, are you doing it all at the same time in the studio together,
Oh yeah.
or
Not
you
always,
go in
not
once?
always, but often.
But doesn't that make it harder to get a perfect take? Or you just do a take and then you punch in whatever you have to.
Perfect take.
What's a perfect take?
It's precision.
No,
I
I'm
mean,
not saying that's not something. We always got a perfect take. What are you talking about? No, that's not. That's perfect take wasn't a concern. Making each other laugh was more important. And so
okay.
our studio when we got our studio in LA, there was like the live room here and the control room here, and the pass through was like a phone booth thing. And so
Hmm.
it'd be like one of us in the studio, one in the phone booth, and one in the live room with a window. And we'd always just, I don't know. It's
Got it.
fun to do it all together.
How many licensed to ill songs wound up on the cutting room floor? Besides, I'm down and uh there was a song that sounded like a reverse PSK. I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
called Scenario.
Yeah, scenario, which is in a movie. But there was
Who's
one,
controlling the drum machine on that? I,
I don't remember.
I
I
take
might
it
have
that you
been
don't.
might have been Yauk.
Okay,
Might have been
you got
Yauk.
to understand. There's Beastie Boys fans that like listening to the music annually, whereas I get that you record it and you probably haven't heard it since it was made 40 years ago.
Also, in life, you remember what you did, or more important, you remember what you didn't do.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying? So I remember if I didn't do something, like I didn't program that beat, so I know that I didn't. Who did? I don't know. Yao?
Got
Probably.
it.
Yeah.
Musically, were you allowed any input on License to Ill as
Yeah.
far as like what you
It
wanted
felt
to?
like when Rick wasn't there, we got to have fun and do stuff.
So what
That's
songs
why
were
like
those?
the
Where
Mr. Ed, like all of the weird little bits and pieces, that's us having fun.
on the title track? Got it. Got it.
Oh wait, there's one other song that's not on that record. That was a Public Enemy song that wasn't going to get used. That was that we recorded at Electric Ladyland. That was terrible, and I think it might have been Cold Lampin', and it was like Flavor gave it to us, and then I was going to say we also did Slow and Low, but we ended up using that. But yeah, we did
Yeah.
Cold Lampin', or one of those Flavor songs that they used.
So initially that was going to you guys.
I guess they recorded and didn't like it, and then they were like, "You guys have it." And we recorded, and it was so bad that they must have been like, "Yeah, well, let's take it." It was really bad.
Whoa! I
Yeah.
gotta find that motherfucker.
I have all these things on cassette somewhere that are.
I cannot wait for that. Okay. As far as the infamous White House album follow up,
Mm.
was that ever completed, or was Desperado the only thing recorded before you guys left?
So yeah, it's a long. I don't even know what I'm like legally allowed because there was so much weird shit that happened at the end of our relationship with Rick and Russell. But the threat was that if we didn't record an album, that Russell was going to get some producers to put our vocals, which I don't know what vocals he was going to use, to this new music called house music that people were into. And he was going to put out a record called White House. It was going to be huge because people really like this new house music thing.
Really?
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
Great
We're like,
term.
okay, sounds great.
see. Okay. That's interesting. All right. Well, yeah, I heard Desperado, but that's
That's not house music.
far from it.
Yeah. I just remember
Far from it.
that Jungle Brothers had a song called House Music All Night Long. So good.
And he wanted you to cash in on that. All right, that's crazy. Um, so your time in Los Angeles. Um, first of all,
Yeah.
because you guys were the first to really experience hip hop success, how jarring was it to be not only hip hop successful, but like worldwide level of success? In hindsight, was it more of a burden, or was it just like something you didn't care for, or
Um, no, it's fucking crazy. I mean, this shit just it really happened quickly. And it was not I don't know how to sort of explain it. It's like you wear like you go to a party and you wear like earmuffs and everybody at the party's like, "Whoa, those earmuffs are cool." And then you're like, "Okay, I guess I'm gonna wear earmuffs every day now for the rest of my life because fucking everybody loves my earmuffs. I'm getting paid to wear these earmuffs." It was awesome.
so
It
Andre
wasn't
three?
the plan. It was like we had no plan. We were also a hardcore band. We were a punk band. We were punks. And so
Right.
we approached rap music as such. You know what I mean? Like we're just doing what we're doing. And other people responding to it was weird enough that our all of our shows were like, our 25 friends or people that we sort of knew friends of friends. Then it got a little bigger, and then all of a sudden, like we're on tour with Madonna. We're like, whoa, shit, that's crazy. So we come home, and then all of a sudden we're on tour opening for Run DMC and Timex Social Club.
Hmm.
It's like this massive thing. And then so we're like, okay, I guess we're this massive thing now. And so when the record came out, it was fucking huge. We were on the cover in the newspaper in England every day. It was like crazy. There's no, I don't know how people do it. I don't know how solo artists do stuff like that because it seems so crazy.
So
And you have
when
people that like all these people love you, but just as many people are like, fuck you, you suck. Who do you think you are?
I, Andre 3000 said that when he did the cast that there's a point where I asked him, like, did you believe that you were as good as we were all saying you were? And it's almost like I believe his answer was more akin to like he was trying to either provoke us, like, okay, well, let me see if I do this crazy thing and whatever crazy action he does, or let me wear this wig, or let me, you
Put
know,
on your
and
earmuffs.
then, right. And then people would be like, oh my God, we love you. We love you. And then he would do something crazier. Oh my God, we love you. We love you. And it would be such a crazy circle that, I asked him, like, so you telling us that you left hip hop because you didn't believe us when we told you how great you were? Like, like, do you feel like inauthentic if everything you do, like, oh my God, you see the way he picked his nose? Jesus, and
Yeah.
then everyone follows suit. But I mean, did it ever just get to that point where, I mean, obviously now, and this is my version of not being overtly complimentary or anything, being a goldfish or in a goldfish tank. Was that tiring at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it got weird. It's a hard call because a lot of people are saying they love you and you're
Right,
great. That's not bad. That's
right,
that's good in theory, right? So
yeah.
you have that with you. And so it's nice. People like what you do. That's great. But the other stuff that comes with it and interviews and busy schedule and all of that stuff, that's not something that I don't know if anybody's used to, but we didn't sign up for all of that sort of stuff. And so it
I
became,
wasn't I wasn't aware of how you guys were perceived in the press. I wasn't deep on the press until like I got it until like check your head. You know what I mean? So, if you weren't in Right On magazine,
Right.
I wouldn't know too much. I think once I
We,
heard you
we
guys
were we
made the
were in Right On a magazine
no, I know that's how I'm aware. But
briefly.
was the press contentious of you guys during
But
the
all right. So 1987, License to Ill. It's growing really fast, right?
right?
We're gonna go on tour in the UK. All this is in our book, Beastie Boys book,
Hmm.
available now at your local.
I've read the book.
Um, so we're coming, and they're writing articles about us in the newspaper, not magazines. I'm talking like the cover of the Sun and the
The
Daily.
Sun and the Globe. Okay.
And they had a parliament meeting. Should they allow us to come because we're these awful people? Like word has gotten out now that we're like the Sex Pistols, we're like fucking up the youth of America. We're like death metal music that's gonna do whatever.
Isn't that the rocker's dream to be parents' worst nightmare?
That's the record company's dream. So it's
Oh,
all building and building, and we're on the cover of the newspaper and everything we're doing, and we're feeding into it because that's what we're getting attention. You're like a kid. you know, people are paying attention how you pick your nose, so you keep picking your nose that way because people love it. So we're doing it and doing it, not to let us off the hook. I'm saying we are responsible, we all are for what we do, but it's building and building and building. And so when we finally get to England and we're playing our shows, they start getting fucking weird and tense and different. And then we play a show in Liverpool, and basically everybody there, not everybody there, a lot of people there are like singing football songs. It's like hooligan shit. They're throwing beer bottles at us. They're like, fuck you. You say you're the shit. You say you're tough, but you're nothing. And beer bottles are raining down on us. And we're like, okay, now it's gotten to be too much.
so you're saying the audience was going there just to heckle you?
More than heckle, yeah. Because we've already told everybody and we've become this thing. And like we're definitely responsible for saying the things that we said and doing the things we do, but like it caught fire in terms of press and newspapers and all this shit, and it was like way out of control.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
Yeah,
that was with the
and
fan.
I
I thought
went
it was
to,
the press. I didn't know it
like
was
I
like,
went to jail for a few nights. It was like fucking crazy. It sucked. But at the same
yikes.
time, you know, for the first time ever, I had some money. It was nice.
Got it. Okay. So was there an official meeting of the creative direction of what Paul's Boutique should be?
The official meeting was me, Adam, and Mike being like, we got to get the fuck away from Rick and Russell. That was like beginning and end of it.
So you don't think had you been on Def Jam, you guys wouldn't have made
Oh,
an
there's
album
no
as
way.
adventurous?
There's no way. Absolutely no way.
Wow. Well, I mean, even they imploded in what, 88. So
It
Rick,
all fell apart at the same time. The whole thing fell apart at the same time between
right.
and Rick and us and Russell and Rick, all of us. It just
Okay. So I take it that you guys met with the Dust Brothers and whatnot. Um, well, the legend is that one of you heard some tracks at a party. Was it you?
that was me. Yes,
Okay.
I went to some weird Hollywood party with a friend, and these guys were there just like kind of in the back, outside listening to a cassette tape with demos that they made. And so it was like
Wow.
crazy beats and instrumentals and all samples and stuff. And I was just like, what the hell is this? And one of them was this guy, Matt Dyke, who eventually started Delicious Vinyl.
Delicious Vinyl. Right.
We met a couple years earlier because he flew us to LA to put on a show at his club. He promoted a show, which was a very pivotal moment for us. Um,
Why was that pivotal?
so he flew us down to this club, Power Tools, which was like a club, like a well-known club here in history books of LA. And we play the show, like all the like hipsters are there, and we come on to do the show, and the first 808 that kicks in, boom, and it's like, and the speakers are dead. And that's the beginning and end of the show. The 808 was just too much for the speaker system.
At
This
Power
guy,
Tools.
Mario Caldato, goes over to Matt Dyke and he's like, this is a fucking joke. I got my own PA system. I'm bringing it next week. You're hiring me to do sound. he does it.
That's how Mario C comes into the fold.
He does it, and he ends up being the engineer for Delicious Vinyl, for Tone Loc, Young MC, all those records. And then we worked together forever.
Side note, Steve, you know the Roots' reputation for being the loudest band in music at 100 and I'm talking Richard Nichols era, like 138 dBs, like way above the legal limit. Like our faces plastered on every sound systems company, like the post office is like, do not rent systems to this guy. As I said, Mario, everything we've ever learned in life, we learned on tour with the Beastie Boys. But probably the most important thing we learned was the importance of sound mixing and how important bass is to a concert. So I will say the first 2 years of the Roots and the whole folklore of, oh my God, you guys are so incredible in concert. What we learned on that tour was if you guys are loud and the sound is pristine, like for us, the sound, most people would say an audience waving their hands in the air is the sign of like, you made it. For us, the sign was if their hands were covering their stomachs, like, I can't take this, too much bass, then that was like, and that's what pretty much we learned. So like when you guys were on stage doing, especially doing the instrumental portion, when you guys were doing the quadraphonic sound thing with I will say that for the most part, Mario would let me on the soundboard to help co-mix with him and learn, like, so learning live engineering was my crash course in that. So it's kind of weird that so you guys breaking the speaker is what brings Mario to the fold.
Oh yeah.
That is some crazy shit, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And like he taught us everything. After that tour, then that's when we became like serious about everything we ever done. So I believe that you guys revealed to me that the Paul's Boutique album was not sequenced in a way that traditionally you would sequence hip hop albums at the time, but that you guys basically looped everything on individual tracks, and that's how the album was made. Did I ask that correctly in a way that you understood how I asked the question?
Two things. One, I don't know that. Three things. One, I don't know that I understood the question.
The question, right?
But second, I was really high at that time. I was smoking just so much pot that I wasn't dealing with the fine tuning of that type of stuff. The
Right.
Dust Brothers, that's all they did. They were computer. They went to school for computer stuff. So they were very involved. That was like their thing. Was like we control the board, not like how it gets mixed, but like in terms of how the samples are getting,
Right.
Physically, how they're getting put onto tape. They were doing that. So I was really involved with that. I would make beats here and there. I would, write the lyrics and have my input or whatever. But they were really the ones that did that.
Okay. I was told that every sample on Paul's Boutique, like for instance, Sounds of Science, that everything would just get looped. Like you would start with the drums and then try to match each sample to the drums. But basically, instead of, the opposite of that is when talking to Public Enemy's engineer, whose name I'm forgetting right now, that made Nation of Millions. In making Nation of Millions, they literally, the best example, of course, is Night of Living Bassheads. Like literally, there's a tracking sheet that accounts for every bar that happens in that thing. So literally, like they write it out as a science experiment. Like, all right, third verse, Planet Rock sample comes in. This Salt and Pepper snippet comes in at exactly bar 78.
Right.
We tuned down 85 beats PM for Bowie's
whatever.
Like it's completely detailed, soup to nuts, and executed as such and pre-EQ'd. So once they delivered from drum machine to they barely did any EQing on it. They did all the pre-work. Whereas I was told that for this album, you guys weren't like, okay, only on this, when this bass line comes in on verse 2, we'll program it. No, it's just like we will loop everything as is, and then we'll automate it that way, which is a harder way to make a record. In other words, if there's 16 tracks, am I saying it right? Am I making sense to
So
any of
I
you
knew
two
how to,
engineers?
I knew drum machine. I can use a drum machine, right?
Okay.
And I can program drum machine, DX, DMX, whatever, 808, whatever the thing is. I've been doing that for a long time, for a while, a few years.
Yes.
The License to Ill album, I know there's a lot of tape loops, right? And that was
Nick
difficult.
Cincano was who I was talking about. Sorry, Nick.
Shout out to Nick Sansano.
Yeah.
And so that was tricky to get those things lined up. And I remember the Dust Brothers had all the shit lined up. It was like, it seemed very magical. And then they had a computer. So I was like, I don't know what I didn't understand what computers did. So like
Right.
that it was the music was coming out of a computer was fascinating to me. I was like, is that like Kraftwerk? I don't understand what that means. So I didn't have much to do with it. And you know, so I can't answer the questions of the specifics of how those tracks were made because I kind of sort of dipped out when it came to that. But
Um,
but a reaction to that was for the next record, I was very, very involved in terms of I got a, SB 1200 and I didn't like that I wasn't able to touch everything.
so you were in a studio in which engineers would not let you,
No,
you
no,
would
I
have to
didn't
tell
know.
them
I
what
didn't
you wanted or
understand it. I didn't understand
okay.
computers, so I didn't know how to do it. You know what I mean? And Yauk understood tape loops, and me and him knew drum machines. He knew tape loops from working with the Latin Rascals.
All right. So can you explain? I'm still trying to understand when you guys talk about looping when the levee breaks for Ryman and Still and how you had to have a pencil over here and tape around the room. Like exactly what is that process? Like I've never seen that done. Is that are you saying to me that's the only way that you could loop something?
Okay, so if music is on a tape, not like
Yes.
like on a tape, and say the tape space where it goes around, the loop that it goes around in the actual machine, say that's like whatever, like 4 inches of a loop from start to finish, right? And you take the piece of music, but that piece of music is actually like a bar of music that's like 6.7 inches. So you can't just play it in the tape loop. You can't play it in the tape machine. So some of it has to come out of the tape machine to go back into the tape machine. It needs that extra space.
You're creating the loop.
So you just make
Analog.
it a bigger loop than it is on the actual
Like
cassette machine.
And this requires like the entire room of the studio.
No, just some space, some good space, good amount. Depends on
So are you there for when Ryman and Still is
yeah,
being crafted?
yeah. And I feel like, if my memory is right, we just hand played the kicks and snares. Could be wrong, but I definitely remember hand playing kicks and snares on a bunch of songs on
Okay.
live.
I see it. I'm sorry. I have to also just visualize it. I get very over analytical with this stuff. Um, upon completion of Paul's Boutique, did you realize it was like what were your feelings? What were your feelings when once mastered after the mastering session of Paul's Boutique? What were your feelings?
I don't know. It wasn't like, I didn't actually say that I was a musician until into the 90s.
Right.
Like I didn't know that was my job. I was still whatever, like early 20s, right? I was 89. I was what, 20, 22, 23, 23.
Right.
So I'm just still winging it. I'm just going like, we live in LA now. I can drive a car. I've got cash. I can get pot and sandwiches. You know what I mean? Like I'm not really thinking like this is my career path, and I just assumed like, oh, we put a record out and then we'd go on tour, I guess, because that's what people do. That's what we did last time. We got a
Hmm.
manager. I don't know. It didn't really give it a thought of like, I've never particularly given a thought of like demographics to sell to or to cater to or how record sales are going to go or any of that stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, part of you had to get some sort of goosebump shit. Like, yo, this is some shit. Like, no one's
No, and
making shit like this.
I'll tell you this. So for our book, I wrote this short chapter called I Hate De La Soul,
Okay.
right? And so when the record was all said and done and we're ready to go, fucking 3 Feet High and Rising came out. And I was like,
Did you know that was coming down the pike at all?
no, I don't know. I mean, I knew who they were. I listened to their 12-inch a lot,
Right.
or the two ones they had out. And I was like, this is way better. So I was, that didn't ruin my day. I'm just saying it was a sort of, in a way, I thought that we had done this weird thing that no other rappers had did. We made like this huge medley at the end of the second side. It's like a Beatles
Beat
ass,
Boy Bouillabaisse. Yeah.
right? And like no one's done that on a rap record. And so we did all these things that we thought that were different. And so we thought it was cool. And right when the record came out, I went to Tower Records and they didn't have any.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, this is weird. And because the Tower Records was like 10 blocks from the record label.
Right.
Like, can't someone just walk over with a box to sell? So that nobody, it just sort of died early.
Were you at all impressed with the lead review from Rolling Stone at the time?
Don't know I don't read reviews, so I don't know.
So
I
you did not read the lead review of Paul's Boutique when it came out?
care less.
Was that a protective measure?
Seriously, I'm paying rent off this stuff. Do I
I get
care
it.
what you
I get it.
say about my music? I don't care. You're not the person who's buying the records. You get it for free. No offense to anybody. I'm just saying.
Are you aware that it existed? And are you at least aware that
I was aware that it existed because we probably did a photo session for it. And that's the extent of and an interview.
well, I'm just saying that, it was really hard for mainstream hip hop to get any sort of like real critical attention, like deserved critical attention. And normally, at least that particular era of Rolling Stone, most guys born in the early 40s or whatever, it was hard to impress them. Like they got Nation of Millions,
Mhm.
and they were kind of really iffy on anything else that came down the pike. So, you know, for Paul's Boutique to get a lead review was like a major big deal. And like I didn't even look at the stars. Like I held the hand over the review as I was reading, and I was like, "Yo, this I never seen a glowing." I mean, besides the Village Voice, which if you're kind of under the mentorship of um the leader of Paz and Jop, Robert Christgau, then that's a certain level of writing that's just some of the greatest writers under the Village Voice. But that review was like poetic, and for me, like that was the first time in which I felt like, yo, I want to create. And the Roots didn't exist yet, but it was almost like, yo, I could create something and get a glowing review like this. I mean, I wasn't in the jaded like fuck critics, but for me, that was like a big fucking deal for you guys to get a glowing review that's usually reserved for like a certain act. But it wasn't because of the act. Like I think they had Knives Out ready to crucify you guys, and it was like, holy shit, they're artists, and like Knives Down, and it wound up being the opposite of that. So, but wow, that's amazing that you weren't even aware of that. So for
I'm sure I
you,
was aware of it, and probably our managers. You know what I'm saying? I just mean in terms of
they were happy, but you didn't
reviews
care.
in general. I've always looked at it like coming from a punk, upbringing, right?
Okay.
They're not. Rolling Stone's not giving a huge review to the Germs or to the Slits or Eddie Bo or anybody that like I'm trying to think of anybody's names that like they're not giving Prince Jazzbo isn't getting a lead review or whatever. A lead review is like a big review, and then there's other reviews. Is that what that means?
Yes, meaning like hear ye, this is some life changing shit right here. Which
And because I guess we got a you're saying that we got a good review, nobody
you
bought the
did.
record, so what does it matter?
I brought that record, damn it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, have you guys at least changed your feelings towards it? I know that oftentimes if something doesn't work, you tend to cast it to the side. Like in your canon, if there's one album that has to represent your life's work, like what is that album?
That's the last record we made. Well, it's two. It's Hello Nasty and the last record we ever made.
So
And
for you, Hot Sauce
the
Committee,
last record we ever made isn't like our best record, but
but I can understand for sentimental reasons with Yaukin
it was
and
a
that.
full, well, it was also like full circle because as a band, we played all the music on the record, all the samples. It was like sampling and all of the stuff, and we did all of it. We weren't sampling other records, so it was like full circle for a lot of different things.
Basically, Paul's not even close to your. That's just under the inside the storage unit. Like it's not
Oh no, I
important to
think
you.
it's great. There's definitely some lyrics on there that I'm like, that are fucked up that I would, still in a sort of 80s mentality. Do you know what I mean?
I get it. I get it. Well, just as a piece of work, man. Just accept the flowers. That
Well, thank you. But
that album was goddamn life
you
changing.
can't go back and change things, but you can go forward and change things.
How was it introduced to incorporate live musicianship for the Check Your Head record, and just how much different than that was besides the actual outcome of Paul's Boutique versus Check Your Head? What was the goal?
To have fun. It's similar, I guess, from starting to rap, from playing hardcore, like playing punk music to rap music. We didn't go on a big tour for that record. We played like we did a tour of maybe 6 discos. I don't know. It was such a bad idea. Literal discos. And it was when Biz's second album came out, and that's all we listened to. Is Biz's second album. It was so good.
The Diabolical
So
Biz
good.
Markie. Yeah.
It's so good. And we did a promotional thing where we took a train from New York to Philly or Philly to DC with Will Smith. It's just like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, really, what's happening?
All right.
And so we had these apartments in LA. We were having fun there, making friends. And Yauk was just like, oh, I bought a drum kit at a yard sale. And so I set up this shitty drum kit in my bedroom, and I had a guitar and an amp, and Yauk was just like, do you have a wah-wah pedal? And I was like, I actually do have a wah-wah pedal. He's like, all right, I'm gonna come over tomorrow with my bass, and Mike's gonna come over, and we're just gonna play music. And because Mike plays drums.
Right.
I was like, okay. And then that's how it started. And then
is Yauk always the lighthouse or the sort of anchor that starts
No,
whatever
but
ideas
he
next?
had some good ones. He had some really good ones.
Okay.
No, he was the like taskmaster. Like he could get it done. Like everybody has like ideas, like, oh shit, we should do this. But Yauk was like, yeah, no,
He'll figure out how
we're
to
doing
do
that in 2 hours. Yeah.
So went from we should be a band to
tomorrow we're a band. You know what I mean? It was like tomorrow, this is what we're doing tomorrow. This isn't just an idea. This is what we're doing. And
how long did it take you guys to get used to each?
I wanted to go back to a year before. We were all living together at this house off of Mulholland Drive, and Mike drove his car through the front gate, this wooden gate. And so Mario Caldato had a friend, this guy, Mark Nishida, who was a carpenter, who also played keyboards. He came and he fixed the gate. And then the year when we started playing, Mario was like, you should get my friend Mark to come and play keyboards. And it just literally, that's like the next day. And then it just started.
Eventually you guys wind up, platinum status, newfound fan base, back in arenas. But I mean, for like, how can you explain basically how that journey starts? Or is just like every day is just, oh, this is happening. Like, I don't think you can plan a comeback, or I didn't necessarily call it a comeback because you guys were a consistent part of my listening. So I never once felt like a lack of Beastie Boys, even though I know there's a difference between 9 million units and 500,000 units. But
Well, I guess we learned the thing of like, well, we severed ties with our manager, who was the one during the Paul's Boutique thing who had us play at the discos and the train with Will Smith.
right.
And we got a new manager who's still our manager, John Silva. And
John, yep. Silva is still rolling with y'all?
oh yeah.
Damn, son.
And we met him because he was Sonic Youth's manager and
Right.
Madonna's manager. And this is before Nevermind came out. And we went and had like brunch, like a Hollywood brunch with him. And he was like, I'm not sure that I want to do this anymore. I'm thinking about moving to San Francisco and working with my brother. We're like, okay, that seems very un-Hollywood. And so
Right.
that's what we liked about him. Then we ended up pursuing him, and then he became our manager. And he approached it more like something that we understood in terms of his background as a punk rock background. And he was just like, you got to play shows, just play shows. And so we got back into that and the thing of like actually enjoying being on tour as opposed to License to Ill, where it sucked after a while. It sucked pretty quick. And then
Got
on
it.
tour, you know, in 92 was really fun. And different. It was different. It was a whole different scene. You know, we were playing clubs, punk clubs, and wherever. It was just, it made sense.
Got it.
Didn't
Got
know
it.
it was going to get bigger and bigger, but it did.
So second time around, it felt better for you.
Oh, definitely.
Okay. You know what? It's December when we're talking. You know what really cool, and my birthday's in January. You know what a really cool gift would be? Are you able to locate every last issue of Grand Royal magazine?
You're gonna have to talk to Mike about that.
I hate you right now. Come on, dog. Your
It
history.
wasn't my thing.
You have articles in Grand
Yeah,
Royal.
I was involved in like the first or second one, but then I lost interest.
Ah, man. You,
I don't have any Latin Quarter stories either, man. I'm sorry.
I know. I was going to ask you. There's no Latin Quarter stories.
No.
look, man.
Everybody we talk to,
ones.
Let me tell you about
is
Adam.
like the Beastie Boys were at the fucking Latin Quarter, but apparently,
I have stories in the Roxy though, but not Latin Quarters.
fuck. All right, over.
Look, man. No one enjoys the slow pin to a balloon deflation of any fantasies I have about what life was like back in the day than this guy right here.
Grand Royal was great though because our studio we had in LA, because we also on Paul's Boutique, we spent all our money. We thought it was like we were rock stars and we would record these really expensive, we record at these really expensive studios. And we were used to recording at Chungking, which was nothing when we recorded there.
Right.
Literally there was like there were no lights on. There was a fish tank with dead fish in it. It was like, it wasn't nice. There was no leather couches.
Right.
And so we wanted to find a spot that we could record at and not have to pay an hourly fee or a lockout or anything. So Mike and Mario found a place out in Atwater, outside of LA, but outside of LA, that was like this little mini ballroom. And we just took over the whole thing. And one room was Grand Royal Records, one room was the magazine. There were all these little closets that like people were working in, and it was just it was a good scene. A lot of creative stuff happening then.
Wait, I have side questions to ask about certain songs. Get it together. Were you guys just in a circle, just freestyling every 4 bars, or like,
yeah,
was that a written song?
No, Q-Tip did his part first, and then because Q-Tip was
Because at some point it just sounds like y'all freestyling.
Yes. So Mike and Mario made that track. And Q-Tip was visiting the studio and he was hanging out. We're like, do you want to do a song with us? And he was like, yeah. And he was like, give me a mic. I don't know if he was serious or not. Something of that. And we were like, oh, we had a track, blah, blah, blah. So he just freestyled for like a bunch. And so we somehow edited just the parts that of his, and we weaved our way in through him. So somewhere is a bunch of stuff that he said that we didn't use.
Oh, just random stuff, and then
Yeah.
so smart. Okay, that makes sense now. That makes total sense.
And the biz at that time was he would come over.
Give me a good bit story, man.
First time he came to the studio. He came in, it was nighttime. The area where our studio was at was nothing. It was like there were houses in this one area, but the rest was this big street and everything was closed. It was like deserted, except for a liquor store, like kind of over there. And Biz, first thing he said was, "Is there a candy store?" We're like, "What's that?" And he's like, "A candy store. Is there a candy store?" And we're like, "Is this guy on fucking heroin? Like, why does he need candy? It's like 11 at night or whatever it was." And so we went to the liquor store and he bought like a bag of fucking candy. And then just was like, every time we hung out with him was amazing.
Really?
Every time. And all he wanted to do was sing weird songs from the 70s. And we'd have our instruments and he'd be like, "Do you know how to play Yesterday by the Beatles?" He's like, "You know Yesterday?" And we're like, "What?" And he's like, "Yesterday by the Beatles." And we're like, "Yeah, we know that song." And he's like, "Do you know how to play it?" I'm like, "I don't know how to just play Yesterday off the top of my head." And he would just start singing it. And we've got a lot of tape of Biz just being Biz.
Bugging out. Yeah. Yeah. Biz is probably the second person to whom my pop culture hoarding addiction.
Oh yeah.
He started that shit. Like,
Yeah, a old friend of mine got him a Rock'em Sock'em Robots, like still in a box, and he's still mad that Biz never paid him for it. Biz also stole my Funkadelic Renium album.
oh, really?
Well, he never gave it back. Has
Never
that?
gave it back.
Yeah.
Okay.
He didn't steal it. He just kept it.
My this is something I gotta know. Um the long term, and I won't give it away. Again, I insist that you guys like it's hard doing this interview because the questions I want to ask, I think, are better told in the Beastie Boys book. But the long-term prank that Yauk played on you
Oh yeah.
with the ring, do you still have that ring?
No, no, no.
You don't have that ring?
I mean, it might be in a storage locker of Yauch's. I threw it in a fountain in outside of a hotel in Sao Paulo or somewhere in South America.
All right, short version, guys, is basically some random stranger gives Adam a ring, and I guess
It's the early 90s. We're in San Francisco doing a record signing for Check Your Head when it
all
came
right,
out at a Tower Records. And so there's, kids are lined up. We sign the record, say hi, nice to meet you, nice to meet, everybody's interesting. It's fun to say hi. And then this one kid comes up, very, very, very long arms, like oddly long arms.
all right.
Like weird. There's something about him that's weird. Maybe there's like like extra amount of piercings or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "I want you to." Oh no, this wasn't. It was. It was at the signing, and he's like, "Can I give you my ring?" No, 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 no. So I meet this kid that night at the show. After the show in San Francisco, that guy who I was like, "Whoa, that guy was weird," is backstage
Mm-hmm.
talking to him. He's like, "Can I give you my ring?" And I'm like, "No, it's cool. I don't wear jewelry." And he's like, "No, it's really important to me." And he was like cornering me, and it was getting weird. He gives me this weird ring that was like a Hot Topic ring. It wasn't like a family crest or this is like some random thing.
Right.
And so I took it and I put it in my bag. And then when I got home to New York, like weeks later, I put it in my shelf in my apartment. And then we were on the train going to play a show in Philly, and I found the ring in my bag. So I was really scared. Didn't know what happened. I don't know how the ring got in my from the thing to the thing. It's just some fucking weird thing about this fucking ring. They're on the Amtrak, and I tell everybody like this ring that I'm holding is doing something weird to my life. I throw it down the end of the train. Then I go to the bar, the food cart truck area, and I get a Metro liner sandwich, and I come back blah, 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 blah. 14 years later, 12 years later, we're in South America and I open my backpack and the fucking ring is in my backpack.
Jesus.
And I was telling you, I was shaking, almost crying. I didn't know. And I told everybody, like, telling them about the ring. And the next day, Adam Yauch was like, "Look, I held on to the ring this whole time. I went."
I wish he would have told you that.
Dude, the long game. Shit.
He went to the end of the train and got the ring and held on to it for years.
Genius. That is the type of long-term prank I'd pray to play on someone one day.
And so
But
that is the luck of my life. Is one of the two lucks of my life. Well, I guess we all have several, but one of the main lucks of my life was to have my best friends in my band. So I got to do all of this stuff with Adam and Mike. I don't know what would have happened if it wasn't for them. Literally my bandmate played a prank on me for 12 years. Yeah, I did want to say something. My best friend since kindergarten, Nadia Dejani, you DJ her party every year. And I want to say thank you. If I haven't thanked you, say thank you. It means a lot to her.
Nadia, man, is
Yeah.
Nadia's my heart, man. So that party's been going on since like 84?
For a long time. Long time.
Yeah. All right. So quick backstory is basically I found out through this party that the night before Thanksgiving is the biggest bar night in America.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was New Year's Eve. It's not. That's the second biggest bar night. But the night before Thanksgiving is the biggest bar night in America. And when I moved to New York, I don't know who invited me. I think at the time it was like Rashida Jones. Somebody invited me to this party, and it was a private party in a bar, and it was just actors, and it felt like a hole in the wall thing, but it just happened to be like, oh, the cast of The Good Wife and the cast of Law and Order SVU and people from Saturday Night Live. And, like if you were a New York actor or a New York kind of legend, then you're at this party. And I think at the time, Mark Ronson had started DJing it. So you started first, and then Ronson was next. And then I started spinning, I think like 2010. And what's really weird is that, we used to go hard. I would end and it's like 6, 7 in the morning, like that hard. And man, this Thanksgiving was last week. And I did the party and I'm going all in, and it's just like you got a top last year and everyone's dancing. And I'm thinking, like, yeah, man, I'm all right. I made my mark. And I look at the clock and I'm like, it's gotta be 2:30 in the morning. And I look and it's like 11:09.
Perfect time.
I blew my shot, and that was the earliest the party wound up ending at like 1:15, which I consider a major defeat, being as though we used to go till 6 in the morning. But now that's where we are in life, napping early.
You're not even a parent. It's a whole other shit show, man. You don't even have to be up at 6 in the morning.
I do, dude. I had to do the parade.
Oh, that's once. One day a year. Which I was gonna ask Adam, you have a kid. What is parenthood like when you're when you're in the Beastie Boys? But what is that relationship like with your kid, and how do you relate? How does that relate? What's that conversation like?
Well, it's different because he never saw us play.
Right.
Because he's 11. It's been a while. He doesn't care. Natural really doesn't care. He likes Kathleen. He likes my wife's music way better. He's seen her play. I get it. It's
Right.
okay. I'm not hurt. I'm not hurt. I'm just angry.
Yeah, I get it. Totally.
But does he at least understand you have history?
Yeah, because the weird dads at school, or like at the little.
Oh, your dad's okay. I get it now.
Yeah. So it's awkward, and he doesn't like it. He doesn't like it. But whatever. When he gets to high school, or when he understands it, like, because he doesn't like that his parents are famous. And
Yeah.
Right.
When he gets a little older and understands that, like, he has a swimming pool, like maybe it's not that bad. Like,
Yeah.
like, I can take
then
it
they
easy.
get it.
Not that bad.
It's good. Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So leading to Kathleen, um, how is it? I mean, I love when people. First of all, I loved her book immensely, and especially with the story of how you two met and the pull out poster and all those things.
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought that was a sweet, very sweet romantic story. Um, but yeah, I was about to say, coming from two people that are sort of cult figures in their respective kind of areas, like how do you make it work? I know that's a general question, but I think I'm more or less asking for advice because
Uh,
you know,
Don't
things
shiver
work.
ye.
as a person with a career and a person who's struggling to keep a girlfriend, like,
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Things worked out differently because, we have our son Julius, and my band stopped being a band, right before he was born. And so I don't need to, and Kathleen tours a lot, so we're used to that because we used to tour. The first whole part of our, relationship was us touring. She'd be on the here, I'd be there, all over the, whatever. But I
mhm.
really like being home. So
Are you still in the tender moments when Bridget goes out on the road?
no, I left the tender moments. Bridget Everett in the tender moments. I left when we moved out here. I
Bridge.
left. I left. I was a bass player for my friend Bridget's band, and uh, and the first gig of the new bass player, my friend Andre was like, "Oh man, that new bass player, whew, he's doing all these walks and runs, and he's so good." I was like, "Man."
I just finished the SNL 50 documentary. A big part of that is the Elvis Beastie Boys hookup story. What was the impetus of the idea of you guys doing radio together?
I don't know. I feel like Kathleen said that it was her idea. So I want to say that it was my idea, but I'm not 100% sure. I know that I
How
grew
long did it take you to learn those keyboard parts?
my friend Michael Rohatton taught me how to play. It's my Farfisa. I play keyboards and everything, but I don't actually know how. I never learned, so I don't really know what I'm doing. So he showed me a couple chords. Uh,
I was really impressed when you ran back there. I was like, yo,
I
Adam really knows this
I
shit.
I recorded records with that Farfisa back in Beastie Boys. But and anyway, um, I grew up listening to Elvis Costello. It was like he's in my top 10, if not top five.
Okay.
Uh, as is with my older brother and sister. And so, Elvis is a big deal, and that performance that he did was a big deal to us. Saturday Night Live was a big deal to us. And so I don't know. I feel like Kathleen is claiming that it was her idea, but it could have been my sister Rachel. I don't remember. But
Got it.
fantastic. It was one of those things where like I didn't want to meet Elvis because, you don't want to meet people that are
I hear.
of that stature to you. And but we did. It was
El-
great. It was really great.
Elvis lives up to it. So Steve, one of his lifelong dreams was to produce an Elvis record. And
I
so,
really thought you were saying Steve Naive. Okay, Steve. You
no,
Steve.
no, Circus Steve. Steve
Same one.
Steve has been a long time electric lady engineer. So back when uh I was starting my tenure there, like in the late '90s with the D'Angelo record and the Common, all the albums I worked on for that period of time.
All
Um,
that stuff was recorded at Electric Ladyland.
yeah, D'Angelo's Voodoo, Commons like Water for Chocolate and Electric Circus and
It's changed.
Erykah Badu's.
It was at a real low point in the 80s when we were there. Oof.
Nah, man. I mean, anything that's going through has been legendary. And so, but Steve's dream was to produce an Elvis record, and not only that, but you really started an authentic friendship with him. So, you
Yeah,
know,
and that's not even true though about dream. I couldn't dream that big to produce it. Elvis Costello. My dream was to meet him,
Right.
have him autograph a record. That was my dream. But yeah, thanks to Quest, it turned into something much larger.
Well, yeah, I mean, but, like obviously you wanted to do something with him creatively. So yeah, basically saying Elvis is one of the rare cases in which meeting your heroes can actually, result into something dope.
You actually did it and it's done. It's been out.
It's
Yeah.
been out. It came out. It's a very good record. I should say. I mean,
You're like,
I'm
it's
not.
not the best, but
Oh, I'm not. Now
the
I
songs are
feel like
great.
you sort of underplaying everything. I love the entire process of making that record. So yes, you're right. I, I I believe that if you're the subject of your own creations, you can't look at it in a way that a fan looks at it. Like I would actually be weirded out if you were the biggest fan of your canon. That's my job to do. And so I get it. But that was definitely one of the most fun times I ever had creating an album. Um, yeah, it's called Wise Up Ghost. It came out 2013?
Yeah, 2013. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really it's a quality album, and I enjoyed immensely making it. The one thing I didn't get to ask you before we pull is at one point you had a budding acting career. Why didn't you
Yeah. Now I can
pursue?
really talk about myself because I won a Best Actor award at the Turks and Caicos Film Festival.
Oof.
It wasn't
Huge.
actually Turks and Caicos, but it was somewhere. Yeah.
What was this?
And I have the statue. They sent it to me. They said, if you're here, we would love to have you at the film festival.
If you happen to be in Turks and Caicos,
Yeah.
If you
I didn't have the plans, but So yeah, illustrious is a word that's been thrown out a lot about my acting career. Poignant.
so
seminal.
so for now,
Not the best decision. There's a lot of regret about it.
so what is creativity? And I'll close with this. Like, what does creativity mean to you now? In terms of, are you insatiable? Are you fine with it? Is just day at a time your thing?
This is why I got this cabin, my little studio. I come here every day and I made a piece of music every day, a different piece of music. So I got a lot of music. I don't just to have. I don't know. But
Just to be
creativity is different from what it used to be, what it is to other people, what it means to me is different. I'm in a fortunate situation that people really like Fight the Right to Party, and so I can afford to just be creative and not put things out. You know what I mean? And my house is paid for. Like I bought a house. Do you know what I mean?
got it.
And so creativity is different. If if I had to hustle, I couldn't just come here and make just weird little music every day. I'd have to fucking work at it and really take seriously what creativity means, what it means to me, what it means to who I'm putting it out to. Will it be able to will I be able to pay my rent with this fucking music? You know what I mean? And if not, I can just be creative with whatever I want, but I have to work a job. So creativity is it's tricky.
What's your music like these days? What kind of things are you creating?
Depends on the day, what the drive over, whatever. If I hear something, I'll be like, oh, I should make classical music today, and then I don't know how to do that, so it comes out with something, and I'll be like, oh, I should just put an 808 on it, so it'll be way better. Or like guitar music or whatever. I just, I have the modern era. You can have any instrument you want, so
Mhm.
Timpanis, what have you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Experimenting, which is another
Well,
thing about creativity. If you can afford it, you can be experimental.
well, that's what I aim to be. All right. Before I close, can you give me
I
at
don't have
least?
relationship advice. I really don't.
I'm going in another route.
I
I'm going another
love
route.
Kathleen. That's the only thing that I can. Kathleen's amazing. So
I can accept that, and I absolutely understand why you love Kathleen. All right. So, in closing, what 3 hip hop factoids of your life do you think I not know?
Of me personally,
You had to have been there for an important recording of someone's song.
I feel like I
or
already told you that I was in the background of "It's Yours."
It's Yours. Yes.
I was there. I was there is a little thing. I was there for like a bunch of the stuff. Oh, also, do you know this factoid? My best friend Nadia Dejani, who you DJ, do you know who her brother was?
Yes, Nadia is her brother was part of the SD50s, the stimulated
Yes.
dummies
Yes.
with
Okay.
John Gamble, Dante Ross.
Dante, he's been a guest on your show.
Yes,
One of the first.
Well,
Yeah, just called
first, a long
Dante.
time ago.
You called Dante, you didn't call me. That's okay.
Saving the
dog. Do
best
you
for
know how
You
last.
long it
only
took
have
to,
my,
to
my
make
number
this
from
happen?
here. Right.
Do you know how long it took to make this happen?
You have my phone number. What are you talking about?
I know. Oh, by the way, yeah, I was about to say, like, Adam is probably responsible. None of you two are in it, but I'm currently in various New York Times games groups.
Oh,
I'm in Wordle groups, various Wordle, but Adam's the OG. We play one online Scrabble game together. Yo, dog, I'm not lying, yo. I'm in 8 Wordle groups right now, and I can't take it anymore.
I didn't
I'm
know there were
pay bill.
groups for these things. Is it like group therapy?
It is. Oh, especially now. Are you kidding?
the best.
Like this is what I can say. Uh, one of my Wordle groups who also has a secret spelling bee uh unit that I'm not a
Zombie's
part
my
of.
shit.
Okay, so as of late, the Lonely Island guys have kind of been talking about their prowess at getting Queen Bee, which is the highest rating that you can get.
I,
And so there's almost like a Jets and Sharks, Bloods and Crips level of shit talking going on.
really?
So I'm gonna have to do some Michael Jackson, just dance between them and get them to stop. No, seriously, like it's groups are game groups are now like that's the new game night. Even though I do have regular ass game nights, like the amount of all those things. So where are you currently playing right now?
I'm in crossword puzzle. I do every day. I do the archived
The Times?
Monday New York Times crossword puzzle. Yeah,
Why Monday?
it's the
Because it's the
easiest.
easiest.
As opposed
Got
to the
sick of
Sunday or
I got sick of Wordle and spelling bee.
You do connections? That one's tight too.
A little
I
of connections, yeah. I did a lot of
It's,
spelling bee, way too much spelling bee.
it's a lot of spelling bee. By the way, is Queen Bee like you get all the words?
yes, you have to
As
get every
many
last word right.
That's insanity level. I
I've
can't do that
written
shit.
I've written to the person that does the thing because Tom is
Oh
not
yeah,
a word.
there's a
And there's
lot of
other
that.
words that are like that. And there's other food things that are like that. Where like sake, the wine counts, but like some other thing doesn't count.
Yeah, you know, uh,
Just
whenever I complain to my plug at the Times, they tell me that it's the machine generator, and you know, there's nothing we could do about that. But
I love that you write to them. That's fantastic.
yeah, I know.
oh, dude, one of
Not
the biggest
always.
honors,
No, I did it once. I'm not like
Okay,
one of the biggest
sorry.
honors of my life, biggest honors
Was
of
the
my
Wordle
life
thing?
was um during the Time 100, I got to write the Wordle creators entry for the Time 100, and I used only 5-letter words.
how
You have
many
to.
how many
Highlight of my life. You got to Google it. I don't know by memory, but I wrote his entry in all 5-letter
Okay.
words, and
was farts one of them?
no plural.
Oh,
Okay.
Sparty.
No, for real, Adam. For real, dude. Your generosity and your creativity and your band literally um did a lot for me just as a creative, and also helped me a lot in my career. I mean, seriously, like I'm I'm not even exaggerating how much that has helped me and still has me here to this day with a career and my own house. So I thank you for that. And I appreciate it because literally you guys didn't have to bring us under the wing and all that stuff, but I appreciate that, man. And Thank you for doing this episode. Finally.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.